Most people believe that cutting someone off is enough to shift the power dynamic in their favor. They assume that if they stop texting, stop calling, and disappear, the other person will suddenly be overwhelmed with regret and come crawling back. This idea has been spread everywhere. Advice columns, social media, and even relationship coaches tell you that no contact is the ultimate tool to regain control. But here's what they don't tell you. Going no contact in itself is not enough. Simply removing yourself from someone's life without a deeper transformation does not create real power. Silence without internal change is just an empty tactic. You might think you're making a statement by cutting them off, but if you are still emotionally attached, if you are still affected by their presence or absence, then you haven't truly taken control. You've only paused communication. There is a difference. Many people go no contact but secretly hope for a response. They check their phone constantly, waiting for a message. They analyze the last conversation, looking for hidden meanings. They go on social media, trying to see if the other person has posted anything that might indicate regret, and when they don't see the results they expected, when the silence is met with more silence, they begin to crumble. That's because they never actually detached. They just physically removed themselves, while their emotions remain deeply tied to the person they were trying to distance themselves from. This is why no contact, in its traditional sense, is weak. It tricks you into thinking you have control, but in reality, you are still reacting. You are still being led by your emotions. True power is not about what you do externally, it's about what happens internally. To really shift the dynamic, to really make someone feel your absence, you have to shift your entire energy. You have to stop making it about them, because the moment you are still thinking, I wonder if they are thinking about me, you have already lost the battle. When you cut someone off, but they still occupy space in your mind, they still have power over you. The true key to making someone feel your absence isn't through silence alone. It's through a transformation so profound that they no longer recognize you when they do see you again. It's through becoming a completely different version of yourself, mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. Think about it. Why do people regret losing someone? Is it because that person ignored them? Not really. People regret losing someone when they realize that person was truly valuable and now they can't have them back. If you remain the same person they walked away from, if you still carry the same insecurities, the same habits, the same patterns, then they have no reason to miss you. But if you grow into someone that they never expected, if you elevate yourself to a level they never imagined, then your absence will haunt them. This is the real game changer. The first step in this transformation is to stop measuring your progress by their reaction. Many people go no contact with the expectation that the other person will reach out first. They wait, hoping for a text, a phone call, or some sign that their absence is being felt. This is the exact opposite of power. Why? Because it still puts the focus on them. It keeps you in a reactive state instead of a proactive one. The real shift happens when you no longer care about their response. When you wake up and realize that their reaction is irrelevant to your journey, that's when you've won. Because now you are no longer tied to their validation. The second step is to redirect all the energy you were giving to them back to yourself. Every thought you have about them is energy. Every time you replay an old conversation, every time you wonder what they're doing, every time you feel the urge to check their social media, it's all energy that you are handing over to them. Imagine if you redirected all of that into building yourself instead. Imagine if every moment you spend wondering about them was spent improving your health, refining your skills, expanding your mind, and growing your confidence. This is how you make no contact powerful. Not by waiting in silence, but by using the silence as a foundation for a complete transformation. When you do this, something interesting happens. You no longer feel the need to prove anything. You stop wondering whether they miss you. You stop waiting for them to notice, because by the time they do, you've already outgrown them. By the time they finally realize what they lost, you will have become someone who no longer needs them to see your worth. And that is when they feel it the most, because nothing is more terrifying than realizing that someone who once wanted you no longer cares. Nothing makes a person feel your absence more than witnessing your glow up without them. This is why no contact, when done correctly, isn't about silence. It's about evolution. Most people fail at no contact because they treat it like a strategy to make the other person chase them. But the moment you are doing something with the intention of getting a reaction, you are still controlled by their presence. The real secret is to move in a way that has nothing to do with them. To shift so much that even if they do come back, they are stepping into a world where they no longer belong. That is the ultimate power. That is when you become. Emotions are the driving force behind every action you take, whether you realize it or not. When you go no contact with someone, your emotions don't just disappear overnight. They linger. They pull at you. They make you question whether you're making the right decision. This is why so many people break no contact. They let their emotions control them. They give in to the temptation of checking in, sending that one last message, or reacting to something they saw online. They tell themselves it's just curiosity, just a moment of weakness, but in reality, it's their emotions pulling them back into the same cycle. If you don't learn how to master your emotions, you will always be at their mercy. You will always be reactive instead of proactive. You will always find yourself caught between wanting to move on and hoping for a response. And that is the exact reason why no contact alone is weak. It doesn't address the real issue, which is emotional control. When someone walks away from you, or when you decide to remove them from your life, it's natural to feel a mix of emotions. Anger, sadness, resentment, longing. These feelings don't just disappear because you've decided to stop talking to them. If anything, they grow stronger because now you're left alone with your thoughts. This is why many people struggle with no contact. They think removing the person will remove the emotions, but it doesn't work like that. The emotions are still there waiting to be processed. And if you don't take control of them, they will take control of you. You'll find yourself obsessing over the past, replaying memories, wondering what they're doing, questioning whether you made the right choice. And the moment you let those emotions dictate your actions, you lose all the power you were trying to gain. Mastering your emotions means becoming aware of them without being controlled by them. It means recognizing when you're acting out of fear, loneliness, or insecurity, and choosing not to let those feelings dictate your behavior. Most people don't take the time to sit with their emotions, to understand them, to process them. Instead, they react. They reach out impulsively. They look for distractions. They try to numb the pain with temporary fixes. Whether it's social media stalking, dating someone new too quickly, or drowning themselves in work just to avoid facing their feelings. But avoidance is not healing. Suppressing your emotions doesn't make them go away. It just buries them until they come back even stronger. The key is to shift your focus inward instead of outward. When you are in a heightened emotional state, your mind will trick you into believing that the only way to feel better is by getting closure from the other person. It will convince you that you need to hear from them, that you need an explanation, that you need validation. But this is an illusion. Closure is not something another person gives you, it's something you create for yourself. The moment you stop seeking answers from them and start finding them within yourself, you take back your power. You stop looking for external validation and start building internal strength. And that's when everything changes. One of the most powerful ways to master your emotions is to detach from the outcome. People stay emotionally stuck because they are attached to a specific result. They want the person to regret leaving. They want an apology. They want reconciliation. But the more you attach yourself to an outcome, the more power you give away, because now your emotions are tied to something you cannot control. The secret is to become indifferent to the outcome, to reach a place where it genuinely doesn't matter whether they come back or not, whether they regret it or not, whether they realize your worth or not. This doesn't mean you stop caring about what happened. It means you stop letting it dictate your emotional state. The fastest way to reach this level of emotional mastery is to shift from reaction to creation. Most people live in reaction mode. Something happens and they respond emotionally. Someone leaves them and they spiral into self-doubt. They see something on social media and it ruins their whole day. But when you take control of your emotions, you stop reacting and start creating. You create a new version of yourself that is no longer dependent on anyone else for validation. You create new habits, new beliefs, and a new mindset that doesn't get shaken by temporary emotions. You learn to sit with your feelings without letting them control you. You learn to acknowledge your pain without being consumed by it. And the moment you do this, you become unstoppable. But most people don't realize is that emotional mastery is the real foundation of power. If you can control your emotions, you can control your actions. And if you can control your actions, you can control your entire life. This is what separates those who truly move on from those who stay stuck in the same patterns. Because no matter how many times you cut someone off, if you are still emotionally attached, you are not free. True freedom comes when you can think about them without feeling anything, when you can see their name pop up without a reaction, when you can live your life without needing them to be a part of it. This is what it means to truly move on, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. The moment you reach this level of mastery, everything shifts. People who once had power over you suddenly become irrelevant. The things that used to trigger you no longer affect you. You stop waiting for closure, for apologies, for validation. Because now you are in control, not just of your actions, but of your emotions. And when you are in control of your emotions, nothing and no one can manipulate you again. The way you carry yourself after a breakup or separation speaks volumes. It is not the words you say, nor the messages you send that leave the deepest impact. It is your energy, your transformation, and your ability to thrive in their absence that truly make someone realize what they have lost. Too many people believe that no contact alone is enough, that simply disappearing will make the other person crumble. That's enough, and in simply disappearing will make the other person crumble. But that is not how it works. Absence alone does not create longing. What creates longing is contrast. It is the undeniable shift in who you are, the elevation of your presence, the complete transformation of the person they once knew. When they left, they believed they had you figured out. They thought they knew what you would do, how you would react, and that eventually you would break and come running back. But when they see that you are no longer the person they walked away from, that the version of you they once had access to no longer exists, that is when the real shift happens. People expect you to stay the same. They expect you to stay in pain, to be stuck in old patterns, to linger in the past. They assume you will be waiting, even if you are silent. This is why so many people do no contact but still get no results, because they are stagnant. They remove themselves physically, but mentally and emotionally, they are still tethered to the past. They sit in silence, hoping, waiting, checking their phone, replaying memories, hoping that time alone will make the other person realize their mistake. But time does not change things. Actions do. And the most powerful action you can take is to evolve so drastically that they no longer recognize the person they left behind. When someone walks away from you, they do not expect you to become better without them. They expect you to struggle, to miss them, to need them. They expect to be the best thing that ever happened to you. This is why true transformation is the most powerful response, because when they see that you are happier, more successful, more confident, more in control of your life than you ever were before, it shakes them to their core. It forces them to question everything they assumed about you, everything they believed about the impact they had on your life. They start to wonder if they made a mistake, if they underestimated you, if they were the ones holding you back all along. And that doubt, that uncertainty is far more powerful than any words you could ever say to them. Most people focus on making the other person feel their absence, but what they fail to realize is that absence alone is not enough. True impact comes when your presence becomes unforgettable, when they start to see you in a new light, when they realize that they lost someone they can never replace. And that does not happen through silence. It happens through undeniable growth. It happens when you elevate yourself to a level where they can no longer reach you, where the door they once walked out of is now locked, where the version of you they knew is gone forever. The greatest mistake people make after a breakup is staying stuck in the same mindset. They tell themselves they are moving on, but their thoughts are still consumed by the other person. They make changes on the surface, but deep down, their actions are still driven by a desire to be noticed, to get a reaction, to make the other person miss them. But real transformation is not about them. It is about you. It is about shifting your focus completely off of them and onto yourself. It is about pouring all of your energy into becoming the most powerful, confident, and successful version of yourself. And when you do that, the impact is undeniable. People only regret losing you when they see that your life has improved without them. When they see that you are thriving, that you have become more attractive, more successful, more fulfilled, they begin to question everything. They wonder if they were the problem, if they made a mistake, if they misjudged your value. And that is where the real power lies. Not in chasing, not in seeking validation, not in trying to get a reaction, but in making your evolution so undeniable that they cannot. Now, I've been through hell, high water, and bliss from my own personal hell, mental and physical. The key is to stop focusing on how they feel and start focusing on who you are becoming. Because the truth is, people do not regret losing someone who stays the same. They regret losing someone who outgrows them, who moves beyond them, who becomes so elevated that they can no longer reach them. The goal is not to make them miss you. The goal is to become so powerful that they realize they can never have you again. People often underestimate the incredible power that silence holds. In a world that thrives on constant communication, texting, and social media, silence can be one of the most potent tools you have at your disposal. When you're in a situation where someone has walked away from you, or a relationship has ended, it's easy to feel compelled to explain yourself, to beg for closure, or to try and convince the other person of your worth. But all of this is rooted in a lack of self-belief and a need for external validation. Real strength comes when you can sit in silence, when you can embrace the power of restraint, and when you don't feel the need to explain your every action or desire. It is within this silence that you will not only find the freedom you are seeking, but also the power to break free from the past and create a future you never imagined possible. The truth is, people often only respect silence when they see it backed by strength, when they see that you have no need to chase, to plead, or to explain your worth. Silence, when used strategically, sends a clear and undeniable message. You are not desperate, you are not lost, and you are not sitting around waiting for something to change. Silence becomes a reflection of your inner confidence. of your ability to stand on your own 2 feet without relying on someone else's validation to define your worth. It speaks louder than words ever could. It shows that you have the capacity to move on, to live without constantly checking your phone or wondering what the other person is doing. In the absence of noise, your strength is amplified. When you choose to remain silent after a breakup, you are teaching yourself the most important lesson in life: how to detach emotionally from someone else's decisions. Too many people get tangled up in trying to figure out why someone left, what went wrong, and how they can get back together. But what they don't realize is that this mental loop is nothing more than an attempt to control something that is completely out of their hands. When you refuse to chase someone who walked away, when you stop trying to understand their actions, you take back control of your own life. You stop giving them the power to dictate how you feel and how you spend your energy. You let go of the need to have every question answered. And in that space, you finally find peace. Silence is not just about not reaching out. It's about reclaiming your emotional energy. When you are constantly chasing someone, when you are always trying to make them see your worth, you are expending energy on something that is draining you. You are allowing your thoughts to be consumed by someone who may no longer have a place in your life. This energy could be used to focus on yourself, to develop new skills, to invest in your goals, to grow. Instead of living in a mental and emotional loop, you free yourself to live with purpose. You allow your actions to speak for themselves, rather than relying on words that often get lost in translation. The more you practice silence, the more you will realize how much mental and emotional energy you were wasting on things and people who do not serve your growth. In a way, silence is a declaration of self-worth. It says, I do not need to beg for attention, nor do I need to chase after someone who does not recognize my value. It also says that you are okay on your own. You do not need constant validation to feel good about yourself, nor do you need someone to affirm your worth. When you stop reaching out, stop chasing, stop begging for attention, you signal to the universe that you are complete on your own. You don't need someone else to make you whole. You are already whole, already powerful, already worthy of everything you desire. Silence, in this sense, is not a passive act. It is an active choice to respect yourself enough to walk away from things that no longer serve you. When you decide to embrace silence, you also begin to understand the immense strength that comes with being alone. In solitude, you are given the space to reflect, to grow, and to heal. This is where true transformation happens. Not in the chaos of reaching out. Not in the chaos of reaching out. Not in the chaos of reaching out. Not in the hope that they will come around. True transformation happens when you are able to be alone with yourself, when you can sit with your emotions and work through them without relying on someone else to fix things. Silence teaches you how to be content with your own company. It teaches you how to find peace within yourself, how to create a life that is fulfilling, and how to be happy with who you are, no matter who is around. Moreover, silence is a tool for protection. It keeps you from saying things in the heat of the moment that you may later regret. It shields you from the impulse to react emotionally, to engage in unnecessary drama, or to express frustrations that may only fuel the situation. Silence gives you the space to pause, to think, to evaluate the situation without clouding it with emotions or words that may cause more harm than good. It allows you to choose your actions carefully without reacting to every stimulus or provocation. In this way, silence becomes a form of self-care, a safeguard for your peace of mind and well-being. By embracing silence, you don't just protect your own peace, You send a message to others that your energy is not to be taken lightly. When you stop chasing after someone or trying to get a response, you demonstrate that you value yourself enough not to engage in unhealthy patterns. You show them that you won't tolerate disrespect or unreciprocated effort. Your silence becomes a reflection of your self-respect. And over time, this energy will attract those who recognize your worth, who appreciate your silence, and who value the strength it represents. When someone walks away from you, betrays your trust, or treats you as if you are disposable, your immediate reaction might be to prove your worth to them. You want them to see what they've lost. You want them to recognize the mistake they've made. But the truth is, trying to make someone realize your value by chasing, pleading, or explaining only lowers your value in their eyes. The more you push for their attention, the more you reinforce their belief that they have power over you. Instead of seeking validation from the person who walked away, the most powerful thing you can do is elevate yourself in such a way that they have no choice but to take notice. Growth is the ultimate form of silent revenge. It requires no explanation, no argument, and no confrontation. Only results. People expect you to crumble after they leave. They expect you to drown in self-pity, to seek closure, to linger in sadness. This expectation feeds their ego. They feel validated knowing that they had such an impact on you. But when you take all that emotional energy and redirect it toward self-improvement, you break that expectation. You shock them. You shatter the narrative they built in their mind about your dependence on them. Growth disrupts their illusion of superiority. It forces them to question their choices, their assumptions, and their ability to control your emotions. And in many cases, it makes them realize what they lost. Personal growth is not about changing for someone else or proving a point. It is about reclaiming your power and elevating yourself beyond the circumstances that tried to break you. It means improving your physical health, strengthening your mental resilience, expanding your knowledge, and leveling up in every area of your life. When you focus on becoming the best version of yourself, you no longer operate from a place of lack or desperation. You move from a place of abundance, knowing that you are not defined by someone else's inability to appreciate you. You become so fulfilled in your own growth that their absence becomes irrelevant. Physical transformation is one of the most visible forms of growth. When you invest in your health, your fitness, and your overall appearance, you radiate confidence. This is not about vanity. It is about showing up for yourself in a way that makes you feel powerful. When you look good, you feel good. And when you feel good, you carry yourself with a different energy. You no longer walk with the weight of rejection or sadness on your shoulders. You stand taller, move with purpose, and exude an aura of self-assurance that is impossible to ignore. This change is not for them, it is for you. But make no mistake, they will notice. Beyond the physical, mental growth is what truly separates you from the person you used to be. When you invest in your mindset, when you develop emotional discipline, when you cultivate an unshakable belief in yourself, you become untouchable. The person who once controlled your emotions no longer has access to your mind. They can no longer manipulate you, trigger you, or elicit the same reactions from you. You operate on a completely different level, one where their opinions, actions, or presence no longer dictate how you feel. You outgrow the version of yourself that was dependent on their approval. And once that happens, the power dynamic shifts entirely. Financial and career growth is another undeniable way to elevate yourself. When you take the energy that was once spent overanalyzing the past and redirect it toward your ambitions, you create tangible results. You advance in your career, build new skills, start new ventures, and expand your opportunities. Suddenly, you are no longer the person they left behind. You are someone they can no longer reach. This is why growth is so powerful. It does not beg for attention. It does not seek validation. it commands respect. Social growth also plays a crucial role. Surrounding yourself with high-value people, expanding your network, and building meaningful connections puts you in a different league. The person who walked away will see you thriving in new circles, engaging in experiences they are no longer part of. They will realize that life did not stop when they left. It continued, and it became better. This realization is often what makes them regret their decision the most, because when they left, they expected you to be stuck, but instead, you evolved. What makes this approach so powerful is that it requires no words. You are not trying to convince them of anything. You are not trying to prove a point. You are simply becoming the person you were always meant to be. And that in itself is the ultimate response. Growth does not chase. Growth does not beg. Growth does not linger in the past. It moves forward, and in doing so, it forces others to look back and wonder how they ever let you go. When someone distances themselves from you, ignores you, or makes you feel unimportant, your natural instinct might be to react emotionally. You want to respond, to defend yourself, to prove your worth, or to make them see what they are losing. But the real power lies not in your reaction, but in your ability to remain composed, unaffected, and entirely unbothered by their actions. When you stop giving them the emotional reaction they expect, you strip them of the control they think they have over you. Indifference is not just about ignoring someone. It is about genuinely detaching yourself from their actions, their presence, and their ability to influence your state of mind. People crave control over how others feel about them. When they withdraw, ignore, or mistreat you, they expect a reaction. They want you to beg, to chase, to question them. This fuels their ego, giving them a sense of superiority. It reassures them that they still hold power over you. But when you respond with complete indifference, when you show them that their absence does not affect you, that you are unfazed by their actions, you shatter their illusion of control. Indifference forces them to question their importance in your life. It makes them wonder why you are not affected, why you are not reacting, why you are not responding the way they expected. And that uncertainty is what begins to haunt them. True indifference is not an act. It is a mindset. It is not about pretending you do not care. It is about genuinely moving beyond the need for their validation. This requires mental discipline. It requires you to take a step back and recognize that no one should have the power to dictate your emotions. It means detaching from the idea that their approval defines your worth. When you reach a point where their presence or absence no longer determines how you feel, you become untouchable. You stop seeking explanations. You stop overanalyzing their behavior. You stop needing closure, because deep down you already know the truth. Anyone who can walk away was never truly meant to stay. Indifference works because it shifts the balance of power. The person who once believed they had control over your emotions suddenly finds themselves in a position of uncertainty. They start to question whether they ever really matter to you. They wonder if you have moved on, if you have found someone better, if you have become too busy, too focused, too fulfilled to even notice their absence. And the moment they start questioning their place in your life, they begin to feel the weight of their own decisions. People expect to be missed. They expect you to wait, to wonder, to dwell on them. But when you continue living your life as if they never existed, you create an entirely different narrative, one that places you in control. This is why you must remain silent. No explanations, no justifications, no attempts to make them understand what they lost. Silence is a statement in itself. It tells them everything they need to know without saying a single word. When you practice indifference, you develop a new kind of confidence. It is the confidence that comes from knowing your worth is not dependent on someone else's actions. It is the confidence of someone who does not need external validation to feel whole. You become the kind of person who is perfectly content with or without them. And that is exactly what makes them come back. Not because you asked, Not because you beg, not because you try to convince them, but because your absence feels heavier than your presence ever did. Indifference also protects your peace. When you no longer react to negativity, when you refuse to let someone else's actions dictate your emotions, you free yourself from the cycle of pain and disappointment. You regain control over your mind, your happiness, and your energy. And as you continue to move forward, as you continue to focus on yourself, you realize that the person you once gave so much power to was never worth it in the first place.